afternoon. Welcome to Maximize Your Money on FM News Talk 97.1. The show that challenges the status quo by helping you think differently about money and finance-related decisions. John Moriarty here, president of E3 Consultants Group. And yes, folks, back by popular demand, it is Jimmy Vreeland, a.k.a. Libertarian Moses, one of the co-founders of Joint Ops LLC. Jimmy, how are we doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
I'm a little groggy after Florida-Georgia line last night, but
I heard that was a pretty good concert.
It was a good time, yeah.
Well, today, as always when Jimmy joins us on the show, we're going to be talking a little real estate. And one of the things that, actually, this was Jimmy's idea, which I, sometimes when Jimmy has an idea, I get a little nervous. But he said, "Hey, John, why don't we have a conversation about how people build and protect their wealth, not just with real estate strategies, but also with the privatized banking strategies that we talk about a lot with special design life insurance. This is something that." Obviously, E3 is very passionate about, but so is Jimmy and his partner Bob at Joint Ops. I mean, this is a strategy they utilize for themselves, and so I thought, well, let's bring Jimmy on. Let's kind of talk about number one, why, Jimmy, you are so passionate about real estate. Like, what is it about real estate that you feel is able to protect your, personal and business economy? And what are kind of the key elements to it that you say, hey, this is why I look at real estate as my primary wealth building tool?
Well, number one is cash flow. I mean,
cash is king.
That's it. Like, really, that's it. And then these other things we're going to list are kind of nice benefits, but the way I see the world, it's the easiest, most efficient way to get cash flow.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a house. And you can use, and then, just to go through it, a lot of real estate investors invest for appreciation. That is the last thing I care about. But really, it's the cash flow, it's the tax advantages, it's the ability to use leverage, and it's the inflation hedge.
So when you're looking at real estate opportunities, you're looking, all of these elements come into play. Obviously, cash flow is the priority, but you've been able to figure out how appreciation, equity, leverage, cash flow, and inflation hedge, you've seen those elements not only available to you, but you see them work for you within real estate.
Right.
It's not just something you can talk about. You actually see it impacting your financial situation. You see it improving it. And actually, this isn't anything that's groundbreaking for most real estate investors. Most real estate investors probably understand those components.
I think that's probably why they get into the business.
Yeah.
Every Rich Dad, Poor Dad is all about these 6 aspects of real estate.
So when E3 Consultants Group has a conversation with a real estate investor, we actually are looking at ways to combine our resources on the wealth and the tax arenas and really consult with the real estate entrepreneurs in the areas of cash flow strategies, income tax minimization, financing options, private lending opportunities, strategies regarding the purchase and sale of investment properties, whether it's residential or commercial. And that's something that we decided not only to just talk about, but actually create a division called E3 Real Estate where we can have these kind of conversations. And I know that's something you and I have talked about. When you're talking with different investors, these are the same kind of conversations. But why is it that you see a lot of these same benefits and advantages in strategies that involve life insurance? Like, why are you so passionate about that?
It's the exact same thing. So when I look at it, I just call it getting an and one.
Mm-hmm.
My money is working in 2 different places at once. The game I'm already playing with real estate, I'm just playing the same game with life insurance. Like, I'm not particularly passionate about 1,300 square feet, 3 beds, 2 baths. That's nice. It's cool. But it's the cash flow, it's the tax advantages, it's the ability to use leverage, and the inflation hedge while you get into real estate.
And that's where you and I had this discussion earlier this week about the idea of both an internal and an external return, right? The idea of having the and one, as you call it, having your money be able to work for you simultaneously in multiple ways, making your money more efficient, making the control of your money, the access to your dollars.
If building widgets or doing any other entrepreneurial task had those 6 aspects to it, I would go do that.
Yeah.
But real estate is the only place, and life insurance is the only place you can get cash flow, appreciation, tax advantages, equity, leverage, and an inflation hedge.
And so for you, not only is it the real estate side, but it's also the kind of the entrepreneurial mindset. The feeling for you is, hey, I'm a real estate entrepreneur. Like you just said, if there were other things that you found that had those same features, or, I would say probably when I talk to a business owner, there's certain things about them running a business where they control it. They have the ability to affect the value they create, whether it's for their clients or customers, whether it's for their employees, and for them as a owner of a business to create profit. There's certain elements to that they would rather be the entrepreneur than be a employee. And this is something you also believe that right now, for a lot of people, there's the thought process that, is being an entrepreneur in today's environment, is that risky, or is that kind of the safest way to build your wealth?
In my mind, it's the safest play.
Yeah.
Because I control it. I take all the risk. And I really don't have a lot of government people taking from me anymore. When I was employee, they were taking from me every month.
Right.
And so that was 40%, boom, off the top that I couldn't put to work.
Yeah.
And
talking because of taxes and just all the aspects of what comes out of your gross check to get a net take home check.
And then when I was employee, I always had this sick feeling that they could take it from me any day now. To get rid of, for someone to take my 100 properties from me, they can't. It's going to take something very significant.
Sure.
So in my mind, being an entrepreneur is much more safe.
And see, it's not necessarily for our listeners that we're saying, hey, everybody has to go out there right now and start their own business. But not that would be a bad thing if you did, but
in this day and age, it's no better time in human history is an individual as valuable as they are, or able to be as productive. And carry a silly little smartphone around, and they can make money anywhere, any place, anytime.
And so it's the entrepreneurial mindset, folks, that we're really talking about. And while you might not be able to leave the job that you currently have, there are ways in which you can create more value. You can build your wealth in multiple ways. It's not just about making money one way. It might be making money 3 or 5 or 10 different ways.
And some people's unique ability and what they were put on this earth to do is be a great manager.
Sure.
Just certain people have different skill sets. I'm not one of those. Right. I didn't really work that well.
You're doing what you should be doing.
Right. Like, I was an HR nightmare.
Yeah.
So
being outside of that bubble is probably a good thing for you.
But some people, that's what they're put here to do.
Yeah.
But there's no reason their money can't be working in 2 or 3 or 4 different ways at the same time.
And that's what we're going to, actually right now what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. But when we come back, we're going to kind of dive into our philosophy at E3 and how we focus on protecting the purpose of people's money, looking at safety, liquidity, and growth. But how our philosophy and what Jimmy was talking about in regards to the elements of real estate, how those actually are the same thing. You just got to look at them and understand in your particular situation right now, how do you build your wealth and protect your personal economy at the same time. So stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back. This is Maximize Your Money on FM News Talk 97.1.
The smell of best around you.
We're back. Maximize Your Money, FM News Talk 97.1. The show that challenges the status quo by having you think differently about money and finance-related decisions. If you want to learn a little bit more about our purpose, process, and philosophy, please visit our website at e3wealth.com. Or you can email us at info@e3wealth.com or give us a call at the office, 314-822-4440. Got Jimmy Vreeland, a.k.a. Libertarian Moses here. We're talking real estate. We're talking privatized banking. We're talking about ways to protect your personal economy. And when we focus at E3 on ways to help clients, we're looking at safety, we're looking at liquidity, we're looking at growth. A lot of the same things, Jim, you were talking about with appreciation, with cash flow, with equity, leverage, principal protection, inflation hedge. Those are really elements, the same thing in our philosophy, but it's also something, and you and I were talking about this coming into the break, that I don't think a lot of people realize not just the opportunities that exist out there for entrepreneurs, but almost the necessity to be entrepreneurial. You know, because if you're not moving forward in that mindset, standing still just means you're going backwards in a slower way. You know,
and the whole world's speeding up.
Right.
You know, if right now there's some 16-year-old kid on his smartphone creating God knows what.
Right.
That no chance 30 years ago he could have done that.
Right. Yeah, he's going to create some app. He'll be the next, Mark Zuckerberg,
exactly.
Or the next Facebook or anything else that'll change the way people operate. And that's why, whatever kind of assets that you're looking to put your money into, safety is always a big thing that, everybody talks about, right? Principal protection and the inflation hedge. But here's the thing that we focus on. When we talk about principal protection, it's about not just your money being safe, not just your money's there so that you don't lose principal. It's about understanding how you combat the erosion of your capital base, which is really inflation, right? And inflation is kind of the silent tax. It hides in plain sight. Jimmy, you said that really inflation is something that upsets you more than taxes.
And that's really hard to do.
Right.
Inflation, we could do the next month of this show on how insidious and immoral inflation is.
Yeah.
Let's stop here.
Stop you from getting on that rant. But
that's why you can't leave just cash sitting around.
Right.
Back in the day, if we were on a metal standard, you could be a farmer and you could keep your gold under your mattress.
Right.
And then you could sell your farm, retire, and you'd be good to go.
And that's the thing. Like today, when people look at safe places to put money, they're talking about cash, they're talking about bonds or fixed income. But those are somewhat inadequate today to protect against inflation. Not because they're bad, okay? It's not because there's some
they're
type
just not
of
doing enough.
Yes,
they're
exactly.
not good enough.
Right. So we have to help people find other ways. That's where I really got excited to have conversations, more of my conversations today from a client perspective or with entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial-minded people. And that's probably because they realize where their opportunities are. So let's just kind of talk about this, and then we're going to give a good example of somebody that's very entrepreneurial in your life that is probably someone that deserves a lot of credit in keeping you on the straight and narrow. That's your wife, right?
Absolutely. Right.
So when we talk about liquidity, use the term equity and leverage. So I want to talk about this, and then we'll talk about your wife from an entrepreneurial perspective. So equity and leverage, these are important attributes to an asset that very few people understand or really take advantage of. So equity is really the access to your principal and growth of an asset without a liquidating event. So you can get to your equity without selling an asset or interrupting its appreciation. And that's what we call uninterrupted compound growth. Leverage is the financial mechanics behind getting access to your equity through a loan from a financial institution with your asset as collateral for the transaction. So leverage provides someone the capabilities to simultaneously earn both an internal and an external return. Now, you as a real estate investor, Jimmy, you're using the technique of leverage because you can figure out ways to generate more cash flow. You're generating more tax benefits, and certain assets like real estate and life insurance, they can benefit from leverage.
Yeah, from a tax perspective, it makes no sense for me to go buy a property with cash.
Yeah.
Because I'm going I'll be making more money on that individual property, but more money will go to taxes, and my cash has already been taxed.
Sure.
So part of the reason me and Bob can do what we do is because we built a system.
Yeah.
So now we just need liquid cash running in and out of that system all day long.
And the other thing is, when you guys first got started, obviously you needed capital, right? And if you didn't have it, then you needed to go, work with somebody that did have it.
Yeah.
But from an entrepreneurial standpoint, this is what we talk about from a mindset perspective. There's also ways for people to create wealth without having to get access to capital. But the capital is really more of your talents. It's more of your ability to say to yourself, hey, I can do this. And that's what your wife, Susie, did, correct?
Yeah, she's a wedding photographer, and she was sold with me at the medical device company.
Uh-huh.
But when we got married and had our first child, it just wouldn't work out with the hours. So with a smartphone, a computer, and Facebook and YouTube, she taught herself how to be a wedding photographer.
So very little out-of-pocket money.
Zero. She would book the gig and then go rent the equipment.
Yeah.
And then she taught herself through YouTube videos how to be a good photographer. And then, she's a social media gorilla, just
right.
Facebooking, and got her, her following up.
Yeah.
And so, now she's booked out for the next couple of years for weddings.
And that's something that, again, you think, oh, well, yeah, I don't know if I could do that. But there's a lot of people today, I've heard this phrase now called
YouTube can teach you to do anything. YouTube can teach you to invest in real estate.
That's right. Is there a YouTube channel for that?
Actually, Joint Ops Properties has a YouTube channel.
There you go. Look at that, folks. What a segue. I mean, it's like
since we are talking about abundance and whatnot, like, people are like, why are you giving up your secrets? And I'm like, we're not giving up our secrets. They're not our ideas. We learned them from YouTube and podcasts.
Right.
And the more people doing this and the more people taking control, whether it's a psychic benefit for us, but I think it's a benefit for everybody.
Absolutely. You're creating that community of like-minded people. The more you put information out there, like we've attempted to do, at E3, the more people get curious. They want to know. I've seen or heard this phrase a lot called the U economy, which is people that are entrepreneurial that communicate via social media or just with other friends that, you bounce ideas off of.
One, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's entertaining. And two, you sharpen your ideas. You sharpen each other's swords.
And that's an area from a growth perspective, not just about your money. It's about you as a person. And
your real capital is not measured in a fiat currency that used to be backed by gold and called a dollar. Your real capital is what you can get off your ass and go do.
Absolutely. And that's something that for us, from a financial professional perspective, we're constantly looking to help clients figure out with the assets you have, what can you do to get those dollars to perform? But
you
also,
guys just have to chip away all the BS that people have been told their whole lives and be like, oh, wait, you actually are a wealthy person.
That is definitely the think differently part, which sometimes is a little difficult. All right, folks, we are going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about that growth mindset. We're going to talk about assets, the difference between appreciation and cash flow, and figuring out more ways to help you protect your personal or business economy. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. This is Maximize Your Money on FM News Talk 97.1. We're back. Maximize Your Money, FM News Talk 97.1. Show the challenges, the status quo, but helping you think differently about money and finance-related decisions. John Moriarty, president of E3 Consultants Group. That's me. Jimmy Vreeland, a.k.a. Libertarian Moses, Joint Ops Properties co-founder. We're talking real estate. We're talking privatized banking. We're talking entrepreneurial mindset,
human productivity,
the U economy, everything, folks. I mean, it's all out there. And in this segment, what I want to talk about a little bit is the growth in your assets, the growth in your portfolio. Where does it come from? It's going to come from either appreciation or cash flow. Now, Jimmy was talking a little bit about this before with real estate and how he prefers, obviously, cash flow for growth versus appreciation. But let's break this down a little bit, because this is pretty important to understand when you're talking about assets and the liquidity and the utilization of them. So when we talk appreciation, we're talking about the accumulation of your assets value over time. And there's two different types of appreciation I want to explain. Unrealized appreciation, which is the perceived increase in the value of your asset at a certain point in the future. So a lot of times people refer to this as a paper profit because the gain actually has not been realized yet. And then you've got realized appreciation, which is when you liquidate or sell your asset in the future for an amount greater than your original principal or cost basis. So the appreciation of an asset is going to be dictated by several economic variables over time. Those are normally going to be out of your control as the asset owner. And we at E3 normally refer to appreciation as an internal return of an asset. But Jimmy, I think one of the reasons
I refer to it as you can't eat equity.
Right.
So who cares?
So that's your big thing is since it's out of your control, especially when it comes to real estate, you don't want to bank on properties being worth a bunch of money in the future, and that's what you're going to live on.
Yeah, there's a reasonable expectation that real estate will appreciate, but we all know from 2008 it might not happen.
Right.
So we don't look at our balance sheet and look at our appreciation in the properties as like a way to go.
Yeah, that unrealized appreciation. If you realize appreciation, meaning you sell a property and you make money on it, then great, right? That's added, but it's not what you're basing it on. Cash flow, which is, we look at as an external return.
And the problem with when you do realize that equity, it's generally taxed somewhat highly.
Absolutely.
Cash flow, it's just not taxed the same way.
Yeah, because there's more control of it. Now again, folks, cash flow, the way that we look at it, that could be, it's money that's coming in based on what you invested your dollars in or where you stored your money. So, you could be generating interest from a bank, yield from a bond, dividends from a stock, rent from real estate, and even income from a business. Those are all things that could be considered cash flow for growth. But here's the other thing you got to think of. Cash flow is much more subjective than appreciation. There's normally, as Jimmy just said, there's normally more control and consistency with that type of return. And so finding assets and financial strategies where you can combine the cash flow and appreciation to build your wealth, that's an ideal scenario. But also, too, you really want to be able to work with a team of financial professionals that understand strategies that fit your financial picture. And this is where, Jimmy, we've had a lot of conversations. You're using our E3 tax group on the bookkeeping side, and you're really looking at not just, hey, we're making a bunch of cash, but how much of it can I keep?
Right.
And is that something that you think a lot of other people, even in the real estate world, they're not maybe minding the store as much as they could be when it comes to the tax situation?
I don't think their skill set is necessarily made for it.
Yeah.
When people have asked me what they should do with that's the first question I ask is who's doing your books?
Yeah.
That's the one cost I think's worth it.
Yeah. Because without the understanding of those things, you wouldn't be able to figure out.
Cash flow is the blood of your business.
Yeah.
So I look at the bookkeepers almost like a doctor.
Yeah. And in some of the conversations that we've had, when we look at your wealth that's built with the 100 properties, and in the ways in which you go about to protect that wealth, whether it's from the asset protection side or the idea of the way that you, how you strategically use banks in some cases and private lenders and other things. That's a component to your business that when you maybe had 5 or 10 properties, it was a different conversation than now where you guys are at, with 100 properties.
And with an investor, our bank is not going to, my spreadsheet's just not going to do it for them.
Sure.
How do they know I'm not doctoring it?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So I think one of the things for people out there listening to kind of understand is when we talk about safety, liquidity, and growth, when we talk about those different elements that are part of real estate that benefit you, the appreciation, the equity, the inflation hedge, protection of your principal, cash flow appreciation, those are the same elements that you saw when it came to using life insurance as a cash flow tool, as an asset.
They're the exact same.
We talk about privatized banking or infinite banking now. Why is it that you look at that and you say, "Hey, this is something that I'm gonna promote when I'm talking to people," just almost as much as you promote with real estate? A lot of people would say, "Well,
they're one and the same." It's just, I've come to the conclusion it's just the same game. If you're going to enter into the real estate market, you're going for those 5 or 6 variables. So why would you leave? Why wouldn't you try to expand those 6 variables as much as you can?
And what is you think the average person's mindset? I mean, obviously some people would look at real estate and whether they've had success or not, whether they've read different books or not, some people are going to look at that as a great way to build wealth, and some people are going to look at it as risky, right? I mean, that's just their perception. Probably with insurance, it's kind of in the same vein that insurance, like, A, it's a horrible investment. B, insurance people just sell that to make big commissions. Why would I put my money in this? How did those thought process come across you, and why did you overcome them? So,
I guess to go back for a second, you and me were kind of raised, at least I felt, the message we're getting was, pay your taxes, get a good education, invest in your qualified plan, and retire when you're 65.
Yeah.
And I think that's, once again, we're in the most productive time in human history. There's no need for that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't personally think that paradigm exists anymore.
Sure.
I think it's eroding every day. And that's neither here nor there, but it's just a myth. So anything that's involved in that myth, I have a natural suspicion to, and when I see something that solves that myth or goes through that myth, like, I'm on it quickly.
And that's where the life insurance, the privatized banking, the infinite banking, that you saw that as a tool, as a resource that fit with your real estate, your strategies.
I did Rich Dad Poor Dad. He says, gets taxed like a business, get taxed like a bank. And then I started looking, wow, is there anything the banks do with life insurance? And most of their tier 1 capital is built in life insurance.
Yeah, billions of dollars in insurance.
Yeah. And so if these people are using it, why wouldn't I use it?
Yeah. Well, you sent our group an article that you found on...
Jim Harbaugh, and we did a YouTube video about it, but Jim Harbaugh, instead of getting paid wages, is now getting paid in life insurance loans.
Part of his package, his compensation from University of Michigan.
Yeah.
For his, he got lured away from the NFL. Very lucrative contract from Michigan. Mm-hmm. And part of the benefits attached to that were compensation in the form of, as you said, life insurance loans, which, of course, if you don't understand what that means, essentially it's tax-exempt income.
Right. They are paying, and I love it that the pro-social government programs people in Ann Arbor are using something that would appeal to us.
Sure.
But instead of paying taxes to their employee, they just give them cash in the form of life insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go way down the rabbit hole and talk about whenever you compensate someone as a W-2, they're just a target.
Sure.
So another reason I jumped on this is because any compensation I can get that isn't taxed, I'm going to go find a way to do it.
Yeah.
And, it's legal. The tax code is written this way. Maybe I'm just doing what the central planners want me to do. I don't know. I just get to keep more of my money. Yeah,
well, I would also say, too, that, again, when you find these other strategies, or you find other people that are implementing strategies, a lot of times I'll have this conversation with somebody, and it'll go a couple different ways. If you discover that somebody else either believes the same things that you do or is doing the same things that you do, you're either going to get a sense of confidence because you say, okay, there's somebody else that gets it the way I get it.
Yeah.
So there's a confidence in knowing you're not alone. The other element to it is that you start to ask yourself, well, how did that person come up by this? Did they just discover it by happenstance, or did they do the research? And so when you start to realize that there aren't secrets out, like this insurance stuff, it's been around for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
But the problem is, in the way that the economy has worked, the way that things have changed over time.
The problem is that the retail marketing is just crap.
Yes.
It's BS.
You're talking about you're saying from the insurance side or just retail marketing in general? To
every
people?
time you turn on the TV, you're just going to be spewed with crap.
Yeah.
So anything that
So don't turn the TV on? Is that what
I don't watch a lot of TV.
Just YouTube?
Definitely spend a lot of time on YouTube.
just YouTube. Sure. Just join Ops YouTube all day long. Wait, before you say anything, because I know you're getting ready. Let's take our last break, and then when we come back, we're going to wrap up our conversation on building your wealth, using different mindsets from a growth perspective, and also figuring out ways to protect your personal and business economy. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Maximize Your Money, FM News Talk 97.1. We're back. Maximize Your Money, FM News Talk 97.1. Show the challenges and status quo by helping you think differently about money and finance-related decisions. Once again, if you want to learn more about E3's purpose, process, and philosophy, visit our website at e3wealth.com. You can also email us at info@e3wealth.com or give us a call at the office, 314-822-4440. Now, Jimmy, what would be the best way for someone to get in touch with you guys if they wanted to learn a little bit more about joint ops properties or understand ways to build their wealth with real estate? What's the best way?
They can email me at jointopsproperties.com.
Okay. Is that info or Jimmy?
Sorry, that's our website.
Okay.
So email me at jointopsproperties@gmail.com.
At gmail.com. All right, there we go. See.
And then our website's currently under construction, but it'll be up.
But the YouTube channel.
YouTube channel's up.
So if you go to JOINTOPS, Joint Ops, their YouTube channel, and you guys have how many videos now that are up?
We're putting out one a week, so I think there's about 25 up right now.
Yeah.
And we have, if you're curious in becoming a real estate investor, we do case studies on the exact numbers we look at. Our favorite videos are probably our biggest mistakes. Those videos are generally pretty fun.
The what's the one? The XL Millionaire? That's a really good. Now, what's the most recent one that you guys did?
The Harbaugh video.
Okay, so the thing we were just talking about in the last segment about how Jim Harbaugh is using insurance.
I think it's like jocks and meatheads and real estate.
You being a self-proclaimed jock meathead too, so it's it's self-deprecating, right?
Yes. I have a lot of pride in being a meathead.
That's right. So let me ask you this as we're kind of wrapping up the show. Where do you, in your daily conversations with people, where do you find kind of the mood or the mindset for most people that you come across? If you do get into conversation like this kind of stuff,
they're either ignoring what's happening or know it's happening and looking for places to put their money.
So it's kind of one of those things where if you start talking about things from an entrepreneurial perspective, there's going to be some people that perk up and maybe ask some questions,
right,
and they get interested. Like, you can see them wanting to know. And then there's the other folks who they don't want to talk about it because it's something that they just can't grasp.
Right. Or they just might not value it. And
now,
cool.
Would you say the interested people, the people that are finding this to be more of, their same mindset, do you think that number of people or the number of those interactions, are they growing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and maybe even more from an exponential perspective, right? You meet one, then you meet two, then you meet four. So that community continues to grow.
There's global numbers coming out that money are leaving hedge funds. Money is leaving qualified plans. There's a conspiracy theory that the DOL put out that new rule because they saw people are getting out of qualified plans. In my opinion, money is looking for places to go, and it's looking for places to go that there's more control of.
Sure.
So I think private lending and real estate the investors do have more control, and it's in their hometown. They can touch it, feel it, and that's why we do one investor, one property, because they control that paper on that house.
Yeah.
And when you do a REIT, your money gets into a slush fund in the REIT, and you don't know exactly what you own.
Sure.
But if you're not looking at the death benefit for the life insurance, it's an asset on your balance sheet that you own. It's just like a piece of property. You own it, you control it, and it really, I know your compliance people don't like people saying this, but it really is your bank.
Sure.
What I tell people, like, just the way I don't look at appreciation in our houses, I don't look at the death benefit on life insurance. Right. It's a complete control and tax play.
And I think that's a part, and you and I have had multiple discussions about this. And
I think the death benefit part makes it harder to sell. Because people get distracted.
Yeah, but if someone understands the cost of that death benefit, but also what they get because they have it, not just the protection, but the aspect that a lot of people don't even realize this, but insurance has always been a place, or insurance companies have always been a place for people to go for safety with their money. I mean, you go back before the Great Depression. There wouldn't be this
country unless there was Lloyd's. I don't think it was Lloyd's of London back then, but if there weren't people insuring the Mayflower and the ships to come over here, there's no chance they would have taken that risk.
Right. Exactly.
Insurance is a bedrock of capitalism and free trade.
Yeah, because you're pooling risk and you're taking those risks to seek a return, but at the same time, too, you got to protect against a calamity or a total loss.
And that's what people with capital, it's why they will take that risk.
Right. And that's something that, of course, with a minute left on the show, it could be one more thing that we could talk about on a completely different day. But what I would say from a wrap up is, for the person that's out there who is either already entrepreneurial minded and you're trying to figure out ways to store your capital and continue to put it to work for you, as Jimmy said, get the and one working for you, give us a call at E3.
Or if you have a big chunk of cash just sitting in your bank account, go look at our video about why we don't put money in banks, and then you'll see the whole life policy is a superior savings account.
You know, folks, I mean, you can't make guys like this anymore.
I just missed my calling as a financial planner.
All right, folks, appreciate you listening today. We will be back next week on Maximize Your Money. This is FM News Talk 97.1.
Securities and advisory services offered through National Planning Corporation, NPC. Member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor. E3 Consultants Groups and NPC are separate and unrelated companies. Information provided is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources deemed to be reliable, but its accuracy and completeness are not guaranteed. E3 Consultants Groups and NPC do not accept any liability for the use of the information discussed. Consult with a qualified investment, tax, or legal professional prior to taking any action.
Get more at 971talk.com.